Hey everybody, this is Will, and in this video we're going to talk about building a worship set of multiple songs in Ableton Live. Now, we've been walking through a series where I first showed you how to create a template for live performance, use that template to format content you've purchased from MultiTracks, from Loop Community, Praise Charts that you've downloaded for free from Live Church's Open Network. Now we're going to take all those songs and build an actual worship set with that content. Now, I've been teaching worship leaders and musicians since 2004 how to do this. As an Ableton Live Certified Trainer, I've worked with a lot of people showing them how to do this, and I've landed on a process in a way that I call the three-part framework for using tracks. It's going to allow you to use tracks in a way that gives you maximum freedom and flexibility, that's highly efficient. It's not going to take you hours to build a set. And the nice thing about this, it's a way that's very stable. It's not going to bog your computer down and require a lot of resources. Now, as I was preparing for this video, I actually went to YouTube and I searched for every single video I could find where people were showing how to build a worship set in Ableton Live. And I went and read every single comment on all of those videos. And I thought, let me pull out the comments that seem to be repeated, the comments that I feel like are still relevant, comments that people seem to ask over and over. And I wanted to address those in this video. But here's what I quickly found out. If I did that, this video would be 5 hours long. And that's just not possible, right? In fact, if you go to the From Studio to Stage site and check out our Tracks 201 and 301 courses, those combined, I think, is 5 or 6 hours worth of content. That's just not going to work on YouTube. No one's going to stick around and watch all of that straight through. So here's what I'm doing instead. This is the first video of a 5-part series where we're going to focus and dive deep on how to use Ableton Live on stage as a worship leader for tracks, and particularly how we build our set. So we've already talked about our template. We've talked about formatting our songs. We've done all that pre-work so that we can now use Ableton Live on stage. Here's the really cool thing though. At video 5, I'm going to announce something and do something that I've never done before publicly. I'm super excited. As I was preparing for this, I thought, well, this is going to make complete sense to do this then. It's something I've never done publicly, and it's completely free. But to hear about it, you've got to stick around to video 5. So do me a favor. We're going to get to the video in just a second. Do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you're notified when we post each one of our videos. Here's what's coming up in the series. Okay, today we're talking about building our set. Next week, 10 a.m. Central, we're going to talk about focusing on transitions, adding drone pads into our set. After that, the next week, 10 a.m. Central, we're going to be talking about using your set live on stage, how to actually use it. Then we'll dive into advanced tips and tricks. We're going to do an audio routing deep dive. Now, in this particular video, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about taking our formatted songs and using them in an Ableton Live set and building that set. If you want a template to do this with, and you're going to need a template because the 3-part framework for using tracks says this. Number 1, have a template for live performance. Number 2, use that template to format all your songs exactly the same way. And then number 3, open that same template and drag your formatted songs into it. You're going to need a template to work with. So I'll show you that template in a moment. But if you want it for free, then head to FromStudioToStage.com/template. FromStudioToStage.com/template. Okay. 2 more things I want to mention that we're going to dive into this content. Number 1, you should be building a set every single week. Do not try to build a master set. If you try to build a set, a master set, and that's what I used to do. Back in the day, I would build a master set of content in Session View, and I did that because I thought it would save time. And I thought I wouldn't have to build a set every week, which would save me time. But I quickly realized, 1, it didn't allow me to focus on transitions, and 2, it bogged my computer down. I got to the point where to edit a track, to delete something, to copy it just took forever because my computer couldn't handle how big my set was. So I want to encourage you to build your set every week because it's going to allow you to focus on transitions. Number 2, it's going to keep your set lean, mean. Your computer's going to be able to handle it, and everything's going to work well. And if you're worried about this taking long, you're going to see in this video, it's going to take longer than 5 minutes because I'm going to talk through it, of course, but you can build a set no matter how many songs you have in less than 5 minutes. Okay. If that sounds good to you, if that sounds like a plan to you, then let's dive in. Again, as a reminder, go to FromStudioToStage.com/template to download the template I'm going to be working with. And that makes a perfect transition to show you that very template. So I'm going to go to my browser here, and I've got a folder that says songs, and I've got a folder that says templates. I've talked about this in all the other content, but if you want to add a custom folder to Live's browser, you can click add folder. It's going to add it over to the browser there. And so that's what I did. I added songs and templates. So let's go to my free tracks template. That's what you can download for free and use. So I'm going to double click to open this. And so I'm going to open this guy up. First thing I want to do in my template, and actually the first thing you're probably going to notice when you're looking at my template is that this is in arrangement view. And the reason I'm building my set in arrangement view, again, some of the videos I found online said build sets in session view. That's what I used to do. Some people said build a master set. That's also what I used to do. And some people said build a set in arrangement view. But here's the thing I found. When we're using songs live on stage and we're playing songs live on stage, that's a linear process. If we start at the intro, we go to the verse, go to the chorus, that's a linear process. Arrangement view is our linear view in Ableton Live. We play from left to right. We start on the left, we go to the right. Now, even though it's linear, a lot of times, and I foolishly thought this or incorrectly thought this, not foolishly, but I incorrectly thought this when I first got started with Ableton Live, that arrangement view was, the view that if I just wanted to stick to an arrangement, that's where I went to. If I went to session view, that's where I could jump around and I could have freedom and flexibility. And it's true, you could have freedom and flexibility in session view, but you actually get that for free in arrangement view. And the nice thing about arrangement view is when I drop a song in, it just automatically plays through. I don't have to do any work. To have that same functionality in session view, I've got to chop up my song. I've got to download a Max Live plugin or do some math to figure out how long I want it to play to get it to do this, where we get this for free in arrangement view. So we're going to be hanging out in arrangement view. We could still repeat, we could still jump around, and we're going to build our set of multiple songs. So with my template open, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do File and do Save Live Set As, okay? And we're going to call this full set. I'm going to hit save. The reason I do this is I don't want to save over my template. A nice thing, if you're using Live 11, one of the things you could do is open this template up, go up to File, and you could do Save Live Set as Template. And that's going to actually add that to this template folder over here in Live, which is going to save you a little bit of time. And if you add it as a template into Live 11, into Live's library, then you're not going to write over it, which is really, really nice. Okay, so with our template open, let's start adding some songs in. This is, again, super straightforward, super simple. So I'm going to go to my songs folder, and we're going to start with, let's start with this song here, Living Hope. Okay. I'm going to click the arrow to the left of the live project folder. Within that, we've got a lot of different folders, but I'm going to go to my live set. I'm going to click on my live set, and I'm going to drop it right here. You see where it says drop files and devices here. I'm just going to drop this here, and it's going to go below the tracks that are already in my set. Okay. So we'll drop that in, and that's just going to load directly in my file. Now, first thing I'm going to do, just so I can see this a little easier, is I'm going to fold this group track up so that I can get a look at the set. And we'll close our browser so we get a look at that. And I'm going to go to the end of my song, to the right here. I'm going to go above my stems. I'm going to click and drag. And what I want to do is select all the content that loaded into my song. Then I'll use my cut command, which is Command X, just like what you would use in Word. If you're on a PC, it's Control X. It's just the standard cut command. Then I'm going to go up to my top track here, the track that's labeled click. I'm going to click into there, and I'm going to press 1. And the reason I'm pressing 1 is in my template beforehand, I've already routed or mapped, my keys on my keyboard to my locators. So locator 1 up there is already mapped. So I can click up here, press 1 to jump right to the correct location, and then do Command V, which is paste. Again, just like what you would use in Word, Command V, it's the same exact shortcut. Then what I want to do is I'm going to zoom in at the beginning here. I'm going to click on this locator. I'm going to do Command R to rename. We'll add a dash, and we'll add our song name here. And at this point, you could add your key, your tempo, whatever you want. I'm just going to leave that song name up there. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to go to these tracks that I brought in with this song, click all the way down to original track. And I'm going to click on the click track. I'm going to hold shift, click on this original track here, and hit delete. So what I end up with, this looks a lot better than it did at the beginning. It's still not perfect, but it looks a lot better than it did at the beginning. That's for sure. Is my full song loaded into my set. I've got my tempo track. I've got click. I've got markers. You'll notice this song is supposed to be 72. My tempo up here says 120. That's perfectly fine. I'm not going to worry about that because once I drag song 2 in, you'll see it's going to pick up all our tempos. So no reason to fear. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is press 2 to go to locator 2 for song 2. And I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this to the end of this song. And what I want to do is I'll typically give it about a measure's worth of space. I can always come back and clean this up. Again, we'll talk about that next week as we talk about transitions and focusing on transitions. But I'm going to give it a little bit of space here. And I'm going to make sure, in addition to giving it space, that I'm going to drop this right on the downbeat of a measure. Okay. So I don't want it on like 98.4. If these stems are a little shorter and maybe they ended here, I don't want to do it there. I'm going to wait for the downbeat. So we'll put that at measure 99. Okay. Next thing for song 2, I want to think about what the time signature is for that song. So I know this is 4/4. In fact, all our songs are in 4/4. But let's say somewhere in my set before was a measure of 3/4 or something, and I did a time signature change. So for here, I'm going to right click just right above my locator. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do insert time signature change, and we'll just leave it set to 4/4. Okay. Now let's go back to our browser. Let's pick up song 2. We're going to do Battle Belongs. So we'll jump up here. Again, I'm clicking the arrow to the left of the live project folder. Then I'm going to go to the live set. Now I want you to pay attention to this next part. I actually did a video, I think 2 weeks ago, because this is a common frustration I hear from students, a common issue people run into, and they think something's wrong. They think they've missed a step that I did that they haven't done, but just watch me. Okay. So I'm going to click same exact live set. Now your tendency is you're going to want to click and drag this directly into place, and you're going to be frustrated because you can't move Live's window over to drop it into place, but that's perfectly okay. Okay. So all you're going to do is just let go. Song 2 is going to load below song 1, and that's fine. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to fold this content up. Sometimes that song stays selected based on how your windows are. Once I do that, it stays selected. If not, in my case, it deselected itself. I'm going to go and do the same thing where I go from the end of my song here. This time I'm going to include all my stems, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. Okay. So I'm going to do Command X again, which is cut. This time we're going to go over here and I'm going to stay down below. Okay. Just where I was, but I'm going to click 2. I'm going to paste. So I'm pasting that into place. Okay. Now, before I let go of shift, or before I deselect, before I click anything, I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to click just above this group stem. So for me, it's the original track. I'm going to click just above that, like right about here. Essentially what I'm doing is making sure that I deselect these stems, leave them where they are, and I select this content. So with just that content selected, I'm going to do Command X again, which is our cut command. You probably know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up here, press 2, Command V to paste, and then we're going to delete these tracks. Okay, you're probably starting to see this kind of come together. Now let's name our locator. We'll do Command R, and what song is this? Battle Belongs. Okay, so we'll add that in. Another thing I do sometimes is on my click track or maybe on my tempo track, I might actually name that so that I could see something like this. That's maybe gives you a little bit more data that looks a little cleaner. You might be interested in doing that as well too. Now let's do song 3. So I'm going to click 3. It's going to take me to locator 3, and I'm going to start dragging. I'm going to press minus to zoom out as I'm dragging. Then again, I'm going to zoom back in. I'm using my trackpad to zoom this time. I'm going to put this, the next downbeat of 1, but I'm going to add about a measure's worth of space just to start with. Okay. So there we have measure 195. Again, thinking of time signature changes, I know it's 4/4, but we're going to right click and do that. You're not going to hurt anything if you add that. It's kind of like when you're driving in your car and you use your turn signal, even though you don't really need to use your turn signal. It's probably better practice to do that and not need it than to need it and not do it, if that makes sense. So that's typically what I end up doing, is adding it just to be safe. So now let's go to song 3 over here, back to our browser. This is Better View. This is from Life Church, from, I believe it's Switch Worship, their student ministry. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to click, drag, drop this in. I'm not going to be concerned with the fact that it dropped below song 1. That's, again, perfectly fine. We're going to close up our group track there. We're going to go to the end of this. We're going to click, we're going to drag, we're going to cut. We're going to go here, go to 3, we're going to paste, hold shift, click up here, Command X, click up here, 3, paste. Now I did that really quickly. The reason I did it quickly is it's the same exact process, whether I've got 15 songs in this set, or in this case, I've got 3 songs in this set. So once you learn the process of basically moving the locator to where you want it, dragging it into your live set, just moving it into place and deleting a couple tracks. Again, I've built a set of, I think the most I've done recently is like 15 songs, and it took me 5 minutes because I'm just literally dragging, I'm moving, I'm dragging, I'm moving, and it takes no time at all. And that's, again, the only way we can do that is if we use the 3-part framework for using tracks. Let me pause for just a second here. We'll get back to this. We'll finish this. One of the biggest time wasters that I see people do is they manage stems, and they go to their browser and they have a folder of all their content, and there's their samples in there, and they go, okay, we've got to do this Better View song by Switch. So we're going to take our stems, we're going to hold shift, we're going to drag them in. And then once they drag them into their Ableton Live set for that particular weekend, then they have to add their tempo. They have to have their locators. They have to do all the work to try to get the stems right. They got to route their audio. They're doing all that work. And every time they do that song, they redo that work. So that's why it takes them about 2 hours or so. But one of the core concepts that I teach from studio to stage, along with the 3-part framework for using tracks, is manage sets, not stems. You didn't see me drag stems in from my browser, right? Yeah, I didn't do that. I drag in a pre-formatted Ableton Live set that I took the work beforehand to format, and that could take 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much work you do, depending on where you got the content from. But the nice thing is once you format that song once, you never have to do it again. So it's formatted, and then you can drag it right into your set, and it takes 0 time. You see, I mean, even with me talking, we're at 16 minutes. If I wasn't talking and just did this and it was just sharing my screen, I mean, it would take me 3 to 5 minutes, which is awesome. Okay, so let's get back to it. Let's go to song 3 here. The final thing we need to do is delete these tracks that we brought into it. Okay, we're going to click that. We're going to hit delete. We've got our content loaded in for this song. Song 3 is ready to go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save. Okay, so I'm going to save my set. And then maybe one of the most, I would maybe venture to say the most important thing that you get out of this video is this next step. Go up to File and do collect all and save. Okay, so hit collect all and save and hit OK. Now I'm going to do this. I don't need to do this because this is going to stay on my computer. It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. But what this is going to do is it's going to go around to my computer. It's going to find where this live file is. Maybe this file's on a hard drive somewhere. Maybe this file is located, you know, who knows where it is. It's a Dropbox folder, whatever it is. It's going to go throughout my computer and find all those files. And then what it's going to do, let me actually show you my Finder window here. Let me get to where I can find this and I will show you. Okay, so here's our full set. Here's my live project folder. If I go into this now, I have a samples folder and a MultiTracks folder. This MultiTracks folder brought over all the stems for Living Hope, which is a song purchased from multitracks.com. And the samples folder is from my other content, the Live Church song, and I believe Battle Belongs from Loop Community. So all of this content is now loaded into this folder. Now, here's what's super important when we're talking about saving our set. And even if you want to share and move this and, you know, however you're sharing it on Dropbox to move to your tracks computer, however you're getting it there, you want to make sure that you share this project file. You don't want to share this live set. You want to share this project file because this project file contains your live set, some Ableton project info stuff, and then your actual samples. Another step that I do to take it even a step further to make sure it shows up where it's supposed to go, looking the way it's supposed to, is I right click and I do compress to make that a zip file. I'm not going to do that today, but that's like a little extra step that I do there to make that happen. Now let's go back to our set. One thing we want to do, a thing that gives us freedom and flexibility that I think makes Arrangement View worth it, is we need to add locators to our content. Now, if we look at this song, let's actually look at this Switch Worship song here. If you look at this, we have these sections here, these markers. Okay, so I call this a markers track. Again, I walk through how to add this, how to do it with this particular song, actually. In all the videos that I've linked in the description below. So make sure you watch those if you're wondering, you know, he's just dragging these songs in. How did he do that? That's all in the previous videos. Okay. So I have these markers here. Now I could use these markers to click on them. I'm going to solo art click so YouTube doesn't fuss at me. I could click on this and just press spacebar. That's going to jump us right to that song section if I want. But if I want the magic and the ability to jump around, to navigate, to jump into different sections of my song at different times, if I want that ability, then in order to get that ability, I've got to have locators in my set. You don't have to, but if you're going to jump around, if you're going to repeat anything, then it's super important, I think, that you actually have locators in your set. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's jump to, we'll do this for one of our songs just for the sake of time. We're going to go back to Living Hope. Oh, and I should mention here, let's delete these extra locators. We're not going to use these. The free tracks template comes with 5 locators already pre-mapped. The advanced tracks template comes with, I believe, 20. But we're going to just delete these for now because we're not going to use them. So let's go to Living Hope. If I want to add locators, this is super quick. It doesn't take long at all. I'm going to click on Intro, and I'm going to click this Set button up here, and that's going to add a locator. A way to speed this up, you could do Command K or do Command M. Command M, if you're on a Mac, is Midi. If you're on a PC, it'd be Control M. That gets you into MIDI map mode, and you can MIDI map this button. I'm going to use my keyboard here and click on this Command K. You could also go up here to key assign. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to put, let's say L for locator. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. So we'll get out of that. So I can just click on this and then press L. And by doing that, that's going to automatically add locators to my song. Now, this is probably the most time intensive thing that we're doing here, is just dropping these locators in. But you can see, I mean, I can do a full song in 30 seconds, right? We could go to this one here, add these guys in. It does not take long at all. Okay. So we're just clicking on this. We're just adding this. Now here's something interesting. This song, if we look at Battle Belongs, there's actually some time signature changes in our song. So for me, I want to make sure that this locator lands on the downbeat of 1. And the reason is this locator is supposed to be on the downbeat of 1, right? If we look at this and look at this particular section here, this is the start of a new section. It's the start of a new measure. But if we look at live thinks we're on beat 3. That's super important because we use this thing up here called global quantization. That's going to become more important in, I think, video 3, when we talk about using this live on stage and we start repeating, we start jumping around. If you've ever clicked on something and it's like jumped at a weird time, that's because of global quantization up here. And the reason it jumped at a weird time, most likely, is because you had it set to something other than 1 bar. Or in this case, you clicked on this thinking it was going to go on the downbeat of 1. And instead of that, it waited 2 extra measures because it's the downbeat of 3 or whatever. So the way to fix this is to add time signature changes. This is another thing that can be a little time consuming, but by that, I mean 20 seconds, right? It's not very long at all. So let's go here. I think this is probably a measure of 2/4. So we'll click here. We'll do 2/4. Okay. And then that gets me back to 4/4 right there. So we'll change that to 4/4. Okay. So everything's still lined up. So let's look at the rest of our song here. We want to keep everything on grid. So we'll keep pressing L. Okay. Should be another time signature change. Yep. So we'll go here. It's 2/4 and then back to 4/4. Again, I said time consuming, but I mean, you see how little time this actually takes. Now, one thing I will say, in our Tracks 301 course, I show you how to have Ableton Live automatically add locators for you. So instead of you having to do this, you could have Ableton Live automatically add your locators for you, which is pretty cool. We're not going to talk about that today, but it is pretty cool. Okay, so now let's add our 2/4. Okay, and then we've got 4/4 here. Okay, let's add this back. Now, for the sake of time, let's just stop there with adding locators. We're not going to worry about adding that for this song. Again, if we wanted to, we could click on this and hit L, and it would add all our locators in. But I'm going to hit save again. And with that, we could have locators in our song, our entire set if we wanted to. And again, it's not going to take long at all. Like it really is not going to take long at all, which is super nice. I really like that idea of having the locators is really going to help us jump around. It's going to allow us to navigate our songs. We'll talk about all that in the next 4 videos, right? So as a reminder, this is going to become a kind of 5-part series. We're going to spread this content out over across those 5 videos so that we can talk about everything we need to talk about. We can cover everything we need to. And so make sure you stick around so that you can see all of that. And we'll make sure that we get all of that content covered for you. So now, next thing I want to talk about, let's actually look at this. So to quote one of my favorite old YouTube videos, first thing you need to do is look at it. Okay, so let's look at this. couple other things we want to talk about. But if I look at this, it's not like awful. It's not super stressful. I mean, having these locators in here is maybe a little stressful. Like it adds a little bit to it. This song not having locators like isn't bad. I could add them, you know, in if I wanted to, and it kind of becomes stressful as well too. But it's like, it's not terrible. Okay, it's not awful, but it's not great. It could be better. So here's something I do. Another core principle I teach is I think it's super important for you to look at your Ableton session and to immediately know what's happening and immediately be able to see what you need to see. And if I look at this again, it's not terrible. It's not absolutely terrible, but the songs, it's just kind of hard. It kind of runs together. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So let me show you a couple things I do to make this really easy to follow and to kind of track with. So let's go to song 1, and I'm going to select all of our clips for song 1. So I'm just going to the end of that. We're going to drag to the left, and I'm going to right click, and we're just going to choose this first color in our color picker. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my group track here for Living Hope. And I'm going to click on this. And this is one of my favorite additions to, I think it was live 10.5 is when we got this. Maybe it was live 10. We've had it for a while now, but when it came out, I was like, this is a massive time saver. Right click and do and choose assign track color to grouped tracks and clips. And when I do that, it assigns this color to song 1. Okay. So things are already starting to look a little better, a little clearer. So let's go to the end of song 2. I'm going to scroll. I can click minus to zoom out a little faster. I'm using a trackpad, which is super nice because Ableton added trackpad support in, so you can scroll really easily. And let's right click up here and let's choose this white color. Okay. Then we'll go to song 2 and we'll choose this white color here. And then we'll right click and we'll do assign track color to clips. Okay. Now let's go to our last song. You can start to see how much better this definitely looks and makes it easier to kind of follow. Okay. Let's zoom in, make sure we get that just right. Okay. Now let's right click and let's do this yellow color. Okay. And then we'll go here, we'll do this yellow color here, and then we'll right click and do assign track color to grouped tracks and clips, which is great. Okay, so now I'm going to hit save so that I can make sure that's saved properly. And again, now let's look at this. So we still have all the locators, which again, you take it or leave it, but we want to have them there for freedom and flexibility to jump around. But what's nice now is it's super easy and clean and easy for me to see where song 1 is, where song 2 is, song 3 is. Again, I think that's super important because maybe you're playing drums and you're looking over your shoulder or looking to your left and you see a computer sitting here. Maybe you're playing keys. There's a computer over here. Maybe you're a guitar player and your computer's way side of stage or whatever it is. It's going to be far enough away from you. Even for me, looking at the computer screen from here, it's far enough away that I definitely am benefited by being able to look at that and clearly see which song is which. Okay. A couple other things I really quickly want to run through in this video. And then we get to talk about some really, really fun things as we continue this. But MIDI mapping. So I've got my template open. If I do Command M, check this out. My MIDI controller is already mapped. It's pre-mapped. So there's my play, there's my stop, there's my previous button, and there's my next button. So if I had, and I'm looking here, I don't think I have it next to me, but if I had my MIDI, oh, there it is. It's over my shoulder right there. If I went to go grab that MIDI controller, plugged it into my computer right now, because these MIDI mappings are done, there's absolutely nothing I would have to do with my MIDI controller. My MIDI mappings are done. And the reason my MIDI mappings are done is 3-part framework for using tracks. Part 1, template for live performance. In that template, I pre-mapped all of my MIDI controller things. And so again, download from studiostage.com/template for free, and you'll get that template. But the beauty of that is the fact that I went through and I already mapped my MIDI controller, so that's done. Now let's talk about audio. Audio is already done as well too. So here's what's really cool about this. If I look at my set, I've got 4 return tracks. Now, I just actually, this week, I just recorded a deep dive into sends and returns and how I handle audio. It's pretty nerdy. It may not apply to you, so maybe don't watch it. But if you're into the kind of nerdy deep dive, like workflow stuff, then you may enjoy it. But what's really cool about this process when it comes to audio routing is I've got these 4 return tracks. Now, you could see these are pre-routed to go to 8 outputs. Now you don't have to use 8 outputs, and I'll show you why in a second, why this is so flexible. But I've chosen these 4 return tracks to be different groupings of instruments. And depending on what those groupings are, and depending on the type of sounds you have, depends on what those will be. If you want some suggestions on how you should group your outputs, the type of groups, and how you should route your outputs based on how you should route your return tracks based on how many outputs you have. I put together a free PDF. This is kind of a weird download, but it's a free PDF where I say, okay, if you've got 4 outputs, here's what you should route. If you've got 8, here's what you should do, 12, what you should do, 16, that sort of thing. If you're interested in that, head to FromStudiosToStage.com/outputs. That's where you'll find that free download, and you can download that PDF. And again, I give you suggestions based on how many outputs you have, how to group your instruments, and eventually send those out. So here's the cool thing though. My audio routing is already done. The reason it's already done is if I go to each of these songs here, and let's click into Battle Belongs, okay? You'll see within Battle Belongs, I've gone through every single one of these tracks, and I've turned up a send knob, and that send knob represents one of these track groupings. Okay. So I've just thought kind of as my, as I look at all my different content, the type of content, and I've gone, okay, based on this type of content, how many, if I had 4 groupings, how would I group things? These are what those 4 return tracks are going to be. And then I just go throughout each of my songs. So I go throughout Battle Belongs, I go throughout Living Hope, and I turn up my send knob. And what's cool is as I turn up that send knob, it gets saved with the song. So as I build my set, all of these outputs already come pre-mapped. These multiple outputs come pre-mapped to my return tracks. So then here's what's cool about my return tracks. Right now, it's set up and it's expecting 8 outputs. Now I have, if I go into preferences, command comma, and I go to audio and I go to audio output device, I can choose my play audio 12 here. And when I choose my play audio 12, you see all of a sudden those 8 outputs pop up and they turn on, they're ready to go. So what's cool about this too, remember I said I took my MIDI controller. If I was taking my my MIDI controller there, my Oakboard Mini, plugging that into my computer, I could just press play on it and I know that it's going to work because my MIDI routing's already done. Same thing. I plugged my play audio 12 in, I selected it in Ableton Live, I press play and it's ready to go. But what happens if I go to a different venue? Maybe you're taking this set that you just built and you're sending it out to all your different campuses. One of your campuses doesn't have an audio interface. You know, I have 8 outputs set up here. What if a campus only has 4 outputs? Here's what's really cool about this. All you have to do to make that happen is go to your return tracks at that campus with your interface plugged in and select 1, and then select 2, and then select 3, and then finally we can select 4. Okay, which is great. But then again, you're going, well, Will, we only have 2 outputs. We're in a setup where we only have 2 outputs. We can't do 4 outputs. We can't do 8 outputs. Well, what's great about that is let's take all our return tracks. We're going to select this. We're going to send all of these to 2. Okay. And then look at my click and my guide. Those are already pre-routed to 1. So by default, everything's split, right? My click and guide are to the left. All my tracks are pre-routed to go to the right if I select that there. And what's really cool about that is by using return tracks, I've done all the work beforehand. I've already made the decision of where those tracks could go, what type of groupings they are. And then based on the scenario I'm in, I could just plug my interface in. If I'm back to that 8 output scenario, just plug my interface in and press play and my tracks are going to know exactly where I need them to do. I don't have to spend 5 minutes every sound check with the sound guy trying to test the lines and make sure it works and make sure that the sound engineer, that she can hear that the click is not in the house because it's in the same spot it always is. It just works automatically. But then I have that freedom and flexibility. If I'm going to go from 8 outputs to 4 or 4 outputs to 2, all I have to do is go to my return tracks and adjust those. And literally that's it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is taking this set. Again, we've got this great looking set and I want to take this set and I want to talk about creating great transitions between song 1 and song 2 and song 2 and song 3. And because we're talking about doing this in a worship setting, we got to use drone pads because we can't have a moment of silence in between 2 songs. So we're going to talk about adding drone pads in as well too. But in order to see that, you got to check out the next video in this series. And again, to make sure you see that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you know exactly when this video goes live. And we post content every single day at 10 a.m. Central. So if you're around, you'll around 10 a.m. Central, you'll see something go live. You can join in the premiere and chat. But make sure you subscribe so that you see next week's videos. We talk about creating transitions using drone pads in our set. And we're just going to have a lot of fun. And again, make sure you stick around for the whole 5-part series, because video 5, I'm going to announce something that's really cool that I've never done before, and it's completely free. So we'll see you on the next one as we learn about how to create transitions, use drone pads in our worship set in Ableton Live. Take care, everybody. Bye.